This is Nisreen's Art World. In this podcast, I will share my thoughts about different art forms such as films, books, paintings, performing art, etc. Hello, this is Nisreen. Welcome to the 15th episode of my podcast. It's lovely to speak to you again. Today, I'd love to share my excitement about the news about an upcoming animated film, The Rose of Versailles or ベルサイユのバラ. For those of you who don't know, ベルサイユのバラ is a classic Japanese manga series written and illustrated by Riyoko Ikeda. It was originally serialized in the manga magazine Margaret from 1972 to 1973. It's still loved across generations all over the world. This period drama was set in France before and during the French Revolution, portraying both fictional and historical figures. Real figures like Marie Antoinette and Axel von Felsen are depicted as co-protagonists. Another protagonist is a fictional character called Oscar Francois or Lady Oscar. As the youngest of 6 daughters, Oscar was raised like a son from birth by her military officer father, so she can succeed him as commander of the royal guard at the Palace of Versailles. Oscar's friend and the love of her life, André Grandier, is a commoner, the grandson of a nanny who serves as her attendant. The first animated TV show adaptation aired between 1979 and 1980. The upcoming film is a remake from the famous entertainment company Toho. I remember I enjoyed reading the manga. I encountered the first animated show through rental VHS as a preteen girl in the 1990s and the 2000s. Streaming services weren't a thing back then. Today, I'd love to focus on the manga and specifically the artwork in it, because of course I love art. I will list 4 points that I believe made the artwork in the manga outstanding. I hope you enjoy it. 1. The fusion of the traditional shoujo manga style and Western art. Riyoko Ikeda's art style shows dramatic development throughout the manga series. In the beginning, it is extravagant and elegant. However, the characters' depiction is quite static, focusing more on their huge, starry eyes and front-facing faces. This is a common trait in the shoujo manga targeted at girls at the time. This art style focused on idealized female representations and emotional expression, which is believed to have developed from the art form called jojoga, which literally means lyrical picture. This style flourished mainly from the early 1900s to the 1940s. Artists such as Yumeji Takehisa, Kasho Takabatake, Koji Fukiya, Junichi Nakahara are known for this style. The shoujo manga from the 1950s to the early 1970s by artists such as Miyako Maki, Hideko Mizuno, or Makoto Takahashi showed a clear resemblance to jojoga. Riyoko Ikeda was no exception to this. However, in the latter part of the series, The Rose of Versailles shows more influence from the Western Romantic and pre-rough light painters. For example, one illustration where Oscar is leading the civilians in Paris is obviously inspired by the painting with the same theme, Liberty Leading the People, by the French artist Eugène Delacroix. It is dynamic and full of motion. And we need to look at the way Oscar's shining blonde hair runs around and seduces not only her adorer André, but also the readers. The movement the art creates through the pages is full of life. This almost obsessive depiction of hair and the graceful downcast eyes of Lady Oscar and other female characters remind me of the artwork by the British painter Dante Gabriel Rossetti. For example, have a look at paintings such as Lady Lilith and Proserpine. We can't also miss the influence of the Greek and Roman sculptures such as Diana's and Aphrodite's. Shoujo manga from the 1970s is famous for presenting their characters in a heightened way, dressed in thin robes, nude but silhouetted, or with their eyes rolled back. I do see a huge influence from the Greek and Roman myth and sculptures in this distinctive look. It must be the artist's attempt to maximize the emotional expression in the 2D format. I can't think of a more suitable expression than Marie Antoinette turning into Aphrodite for the first and only time she makes love with von Felsen. Ikeda combined the dynamism and romanticism from the European art and dainty shoujo manga aesthetics to create her own style. 2. The effective use of the color black. I still remember how I was struck by the intense contrast of black and white when I first read the manga as a child. If I compare the Rose of Versailles to the shoujo manga I was surrounded by in the late 1990s, I realize how the Rose of Versailles stands out in the use of pitch black. For example, manga such as Ren'ai Catalogue by Masami Nagata, Kodomo no Omocha by Miho Obana, or Peachy Girl by Miwa Ueda were very popular at the time. They all had distinctive styles, but a common trait was the active use of the demure grey tone rather than the pitch black. This also has to do with the generational change. However, even if you look into other manga from the 1970s, such as Designer by Yukari Ichijo or The Po Clan by Moto Hagio, the Rose of Versailles is particularly noticeable in the intentional usage of the contrast between black and white. The difference between the golden hair of Oscar and the quote-unquote dark hair like black grapes and one moist eye of an obsidian of Andre is used effectively. The color harmony the characters create in the artwork represents the nature of their relationship, which is inseparable like light and shadow. The scene where Oscar and Andre hold each other for the first time as lovers is especially beautifully portrayed in the complete darkness with a swinging transparent curtain. It looks like a visual poem. 3. The dynamic camera work. Again, when Oscar and Andre first reveal their feelings to each other, what is remarkable is the way the focus goes to them. First, we see the two lovers' backs holding each other, then Andre's profile, Oscar's front-facing face, and Oscar's profile. It makes us experience the intense sensation of joy they must be feeling after finally getting together. When this is combined with words of love, it creates a grand cinematic effect. This cinematic artwork is fully in display in the French Revolution sequence as well. Lady Oscar on the horse is depicted hugely across frames. Also, when she emerges with her soldiers in front of the civilians, she is seen from below. The resulting bigness of her perfectly emphasizes her heroic image. 4. Characters look mature and attractive. Though Oscar identifies as a woman, she's supposed to look masculine enough to pass as a pretty boy. Therefore, her feminine physical traits are not emphasized in the manga. Instead, her distinctive sharp eyes, delicate hands, and luscious hair are depicted with an androgynous atmosphere. Especially towards the end, I love how Oscar's long eyes often have subtle and almost seductive expressions. They look very different to the cutesy round eyes in many shoujo manga. I also have to point out how Ikeda captured the masculine energy of the surrounding male characters in the later chapters. The male characters are not only pretty, but also handsome. I can say the same thing about Aries Maidens, another shoujo manga from the early 1970s by Machiko Satonaka. This is not the case for all shoujo manga. Many of them are portrayed in a more doll-like and juvenile way. There's nothing wrong with being cutesy. However, in the Rose of Versailles, Andre's masculine charm is especially important because the author has to convince the readers that he's irresistible enough to A. Make Oscar forget her first love and the impeccable hero Felsen. B. Violate a solid friend zoning of decades. C. Make her want to kiss his quote-unquote plump moist lips, not any other men's. And D. Make her forget about their class differences completely. Yes, I love how this classic manga subtly but expressively depicted a woman's gradual process of being sexually attracted to another person. Though there are some non-consensual kissing scenes that are inappropriate by today's standards, as a whole, this manga stands the test of time for creating sophisticated drama both by storytelling and outstanding artwork. What did you think? I'd be delighted if you write a review of this podcast on Apple Podcasts or rating on Spotify. It would be lovely if you share the episode on social media as well. And of course, you're more than welcome to let me know your thoughts from the contact form in the description. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye for now.